Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the October 23rd, 2019 meeting of the Rotterdam Town Board. This evening, we entered executive session at approximately 5:30 p.m. and exited agenda review. Sorry. We entered agenda review at 5:30 p.m. and exited agenda review at 5:58 p.m. with a motion by Ms. Miller-Herrera and a second by Mr. Christou, all voting in favor of exiting agenda review. Ms. Mark, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christou?
Present.
Mr. Gittarelli?
Present.
Mrs. Miller-Herrera?
Present.
Mr. Signor?
Present.
Mr. Thomason?
Present.
5 present.
Would you all please stand? Mr. Yule, will you lead us in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. So just a few brief announcements here. So we continue to celebrate October, and October Italian Heritage Month. The Sons of Italy and Daughters of Italy have put together a display that's outside of the office here, outside of our meeting room. They do that annually, and can avail yourself of seeing what information and history that they have provided to us. Halloween, Thursday, October 31st. Designated hours for trick-or-treating are from 2 p.m. until 8 p.m. and the Rotterdam Police Department is once again asking parents to please cooperate by having their children home by 8 p.m. Veterans Day services will be held here at Town Hall on Monday, November 11, 2019. Please join us at 2:30 p.m. at Town Hall and visit our website at rotterdamny.org for additional information. National Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day services. We've had the Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day services here, as far as I can remember, always on December 7th because that's Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day. This year, we're hosting it on Friday, December 6th, meeting with the Veterans Committee. They had decided to, because they have other events on December 7th, I'm sure. So we're going to hold our National Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day services here, Friday, again, December 6th at 1 p.m. here at Town Hall. So first, we'll go into our public hearings. Ms. Marco, public hearing 1.
To amend Chapter 270 of the Code of the Town of Rotterdam to modify the Main Street Neighborhood Center District.
Okay, we have anyone on public hearing 1?
No.
Okay, is there anyone who came in and would like to be heard on public hearing 1 at this time? Anyone who would like to be heard on public hearing 1 at this time? Anyone who would like to be heard on public hearing 1? Okay, we'll declare public hearing 1 closed. Public hearing 2, please.
To amend Chapter 112, Section 5 of the Code of the Town of Rotterdam entitled Authorization of Inspectors to include Commonwealth Electrical Inspection Service, Inc.
Okay, we have anyone for public hearing 2? Okay, anyone like to be heard on public hearing 2 this evening? Anyone like to be heard on public hearing 2 this evening? Anyone like to be heard on public hearing 2? Okay, I'll declare public hearing 2 closed. And we'll move into public comment, privilege of the floor. We ask that you keep your comments to approximately 4 minutes. What I will do is I will raise my hand when it's about 3 minutes has lapsed, or expired, excuse me. And then you have about another minute from there, and I'll raise my hand when the 4 minutes is up. If you would like to continue, please do try to wrap up your comments in 15 or 20 seconds. I'd appreciate it. Okay, Ms. Marco?
Jack Dodson.
Good evening, Jack Dotson, 1311 Cipriano Terrace. Just 2 minor items on my agenda here. Just a follow-up to the special board meeting that was held on October 17th. I know there was a few items on that agenda. One of them was to appoint Joanne, and I don't see that on this recent agenda. I was curious to see where that's going. At that same meeting, I commented on the inspection service for the May Avenue water storage tank. I asked at that meeting, what are the town plans for inspection? It was my understanding that the bids came back and there was no bidder on that inspection. So I'm, again, curious on where we stand on inspection of the May Avenue tank. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Clark Collins. Yep, not yet. That's not one.
I'd rather give them to him.
Oh, okay, I just need one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I didn't forget you, Dan.
Okay, thanks.
My name is Clark Collins. I reside at 2241 Amsterdam Avenue in the town of Rotterdam. I've worked in all facets of the town of Rotterdam water system for 22 years. I support any interconnection with any bordering municipality for resident safety in the case of an emergency, but I do not support the sale of water to Rotterdam. I have foiled for information from the town of Rotterdam on August 26, 2019. I received information the first week of October. I presented anyone on this board with the information I gave, and I will give it to any residents if they ask. I'm sorry. The administration has not been forthcoming with information on how the sale of water to Gillen will affect the residents of Rotterdam. With the information I have received, it is clear that in June of 2019, the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation made it clear that when we start to produce more than 10 million gallons of water per day, we'd be mandated to install water meters on every residential property in Rotterdam. The New York State DEC letter to Supervisor Thomas Owen dated October 10 through 2019, concerning our water withdrawal permit modification, clearly states on page 514, and I quote, "Meter at all sources and customers, the committee must install and maintain meters on all sources of supply using this system and all customer service connections." Sorry, I don't really like to speak in public. At numerous town board meetings, any resident or council person who brought the fact up was treated with disrespect and told that we would not have to meter our water. I cannot deny that what is written in an official letter from the DEC to the town. With this permit, it is also necessary that we build a new water tower on Hillsburg Avenue. An item will cost the taxpayers of Rotterdam up to $2 million. We also need to build well 6 at Rice Ward Wellfield. That could cost another $2 million or more. Since where they plan on placing that well is close to the Mohawk River, and will have to be raised up to in case of a flood. The well is not contaminated. Let's not forget the cost of the taxpayers when we have to pay a plumber to install our water meters. Even if the town were to pay for the meters out of our tax money, we will have a hefty bill from our local plumber. The DEC also mandates that the meter be read at least once per year and that accurate records be kept. Will we then be increasing the workforce to accommodate this new duty? Again, the cost will fall to the taxpayer. So when all is done and said, how long will the taxpayer need to support this project? I do not believe that the revenue that we are supposed to receive from Gillen will offset the tax burden that will plan placed on us. Of course, I can't understand why we negotiate a contract with the city of Schenectady to buy water when they're $3.12 per 1,000 gallons of water, and yet we are only receiving $3 per 1,000 gallons of water from Gillen. And that's only for the first 45 million. Then we get only $2.78 per 1,000 gallons for any additional water. Wow, what a deal. I know how important putting a well in well 5 was for the safety of the residents. I worked on the committee Rising New York to obtain the funds to build that well. That well was built to ensure that the town would have the capability to produce enough water during our peak months of June, July, and August. I had received three separate calls from the fire chiefs in Rotterdam during those months when they asked me for more water. I had all 4 wells pumping 24/7, and unfortunately the fire took those structures because we did not have the capability to pump more water. The 5th well ensured that that would never happen again. It was not built to increase our capacity to sell water to Gillen. The water system evaluation primary engineering report dated July 2019. I hope all the town board members got a copy of that at one time or another. Dated July 2019 from Barton and Judah states that the town admitted that there were areas of town that encountered low water pressure during the peak month. I'm getting there. For the peak months of June, July, and August. As a town board meeting, it was stated that Barton and Judas ran their water model at 4.5 million gallons of water. And that would be no problem selling water to Billund. Every study that I've been party to, we were on that worst case scenario. You always want to be aware of what, and have plans for the worst case. As stated that the town only hit 9 million gallons per day on occasion. So why wasn't the model run at 11 or 12 million gallons a day, which we will be able to be pumping when we sell water to Gilliland? My concern is why wasn't this included in the study? There's still one last concern of mine. There's a 20-inch and a 24-inch line that leaves the well field on Rice Road. By adding more wells, it does not guarantee that more water will leave the plant. You can't put 10 pounds of potatoes in a 5-pound sack. Thank you for your time. Sorry if I ran over a couple minutes there.
Sorry, no, you're good.
No worries.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else, public comment privilege of the floor? Might have come in late, no? Okay. All right, let's move into the resolutions, please. Resolution 32819.
Adopt the meeting minutes from the October 9, 2019 town board meeting.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Mr. Christou, is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. By Samantha. Okay, we elected Samantha. So we have a motion by Mr. Christou and a second by Ms. Miller Herrera. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christou?
Yes.
Mr. Gitterelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, resolution 32819 passes. Resolution 32919.
Amend the Rotterdam Town Board meeting schedule set by resolution number 332 of 2018 and previously amended by resolution number 180 of 2019 to cancel the extra town board meeting on November 6, 2019.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Mr. Christou, is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Mr. Signor. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, please call the roll.
Mr. Christou?
Yes.
Mr. Gitterelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, resolution 32919 passes. Resolution 33019.
Appoint Paula Diamani of Rotterdam, New York, 12306, to the position of Community Program Coordinator for the town of Rotterdam, full-time probationary with full employee benefits at an annual salary of $45,597.64, retroactive to October 21st, 2019.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
Mr. Supervisor, I'll make the motion.
Okay, motion by Mr. Christou, is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Mr. Gitterelli. Anyone on the question? Okay, no one on the question. Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christou?
Yes.
Mr. Gitterelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, resolution 33019 passes. I'd like to recognize Paula's in the back of the room. Paula, would you stand up just so we can give you a round? Thanks very much. So thank you for all that you do.
Thank you.
And I like that I see your father here in the audience too. How are you, Mr. Neville?
Thank you.
Great, nice to see you. Okay, resolution 33119.
Call for a public hearing to be held on Wednesday, November 13th, 2019 at 7 p.m. at the John F. Kirby Government Center, Town Hall, 1100 Sunrise Boulevard, Rotterdam, New York, 12306, upon adoption of a proposed local law of the year 2019 for the following purpose: to amend Chapter 266, Vehicles and Traffic, Section 4 of the Code of the Town of Rotterdam, entitled Penalties for Offenses; to amend Chapter 247, Streets and Sidewalks, Section 35 of the Code of the Town of Rotterdam, entitled Penalties for Offenses.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Okay, motion by Mr. Christou, is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Mr. Gitterelli. Anyone on the question? So just a brief synopsis, what we're doing under recommendations from different officials here at the town. We are increasing fines for violations like abandoned vehicles, blocking driveways, fire hydrants, blocking traffic, I should say, parking in the handicap area with when you shouldn't be, parking in a no parking zone, sidewalk parking, parking on the streets when there's a snow emergency on. And so what the rest of this says basically is that a fine is to be paid within 20 days of the violation. Upon failure to pay the fine within 20 days of the date of the violation, the fine shall be doubled. The penalty for this offense is specified in Section 266-4 of the code. the owner of any vehicle parked in violation of this article or any rules or regulations proclamated hereto shall be issued a parking ticket in accordance with section 24735 of the Code of the Town of Rotterdam, and shall subject such vehicle owner to an additional fine of $100. And then there's more in the next resolution, but for a call for a public hearing. But just to give you some idea, we've had difficulty over time, and in particular with repetitive bad actors, if you will, who have not paid the fines either. So, you know, we're going to make sure that we do what we have to do from a code enforcement and police enforcement perspective. So let's vote on the resolution.
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Gitterelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
yes,
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thomasson?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, resolution 33119 passes. Resolution 33219.
Call for a public hearing to be held on Wednesday, November 13th, 2019 at 7 p.m. at the John F. Kirby Government Center, Town Hall, 1100 Sunrise Boulevard, Rotterdam, New York, 12306, upon adoption of a proposed local law of the year 2019 for the following purpose: to add Chapter 196 of the Code of Town of Rotterdam entitled Penalties.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Gitterelli. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Okay, second by Mr. Signor. Anyone on the question? Okay, so on the question, I do want to just read this section, also the draft, because I want people to be aware of what it is that we're contemplating, so that if they do decide to come to the public hearing, they heard it, in case they can't get online to read this. So draft chapter 196 penalties is as follows. 196-1, penalties for offenses where the performance of any act is prohibited by ordinance or local law, or where the performance of any act is required or demanded by ordinance or local law. No penalty for a violation of such ordinance or local law is imposed in any section or chapter of such ordinance or local law. The doing of such act or the failure to act, as the cause may be, shall be punishable by a fine which shall not be less than $250 and shall not exceed $500 in an amount, or by imprisonment not exceeding 15 days, or both. Further, the court shall award associated court costs upon any plea or finding of guilt. Enforcement, section 196-2. A, the penalties provided for this violation of any or all town laws and ordinances and of all state laws, except where otherwise especially provided, shall be sued for an action to be brought by the town of Rotterdam in its corporate name, and the amount collected in each and every action shall be paid to the receiver of taxes of the town of Rotterdam for the use of the town. B, any unpaid fees, fines, or penalties levied against property or owners thereof within the town of Rotterdam that are owed to the town of Rotterdam for the violation of any or all town laws, ordinances, and promulgations, and of all state laws, shall be and remain a lien against the property. And such fees, fines, or penalties shall be collected by the town from the owners of such property in the same manner as taxes are collected. And that such fees, fines, or penalties shall be added to the property tax bill of the subject property, and the town may institute an action at law against such owners to recover the cost thereof. And 196-3, prosecution. The town attorney is charged with the prosecution of all said actions on behalf of the town of Rotterdam. So this affords the town an ability now to ensure that we are collecting the fines and penalties that people have frankly avoided in the past, and particularly those who are repeat offenders. So that's what that will do. So 332-19, we have a motion by Mr. Gitterelli and a second by Mr. Signor. Ms. Mark, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Gitterelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
yes,
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thomasson?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, resolution 332-19 passes. Resolution 333-19.
Adopt local law number 20 of the year 2019 for the following purpose: to amend chapter 112, section 5 of the Code of the Town of Rotterdam entitled Authorization of Inspectors to include Commonwealth Electrical Inspection Service, Inc. Public hearing was called for at the town board meeting of October 9th, 2019. Public hearing was held at the town board meeting of October 23rd, 2019.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Mr. Christou. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Mr. Guidarelli. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Guidarelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
yes,
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, resolution 33319 passes. Resolution 33419.
Call for bids to be electronically opened on Friday, November 8, 2019 at 10 a.m. and an official report to be subsequently posted to the Empire State Purchasing Group on BidNet. http://www.bidnetdirect.com/Town of Rotterdam by the close of business the same day for uniforms and equipment for the Town of Rotterdam Police Department.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move,
Motion by Ms. Miller Herrera. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Mr. Christou. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, call the roll, please.
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Guidarelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
yes,
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, resolution 33419 passes. Resolution 33519.
Authorize the supervisor to execute a lease agreement with DeLag Landon Financial Services, Inc. for a copier lease at the Rotterdam Senior Center in an amount not to exceed $138 monthly.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move,
Okay, motion by Ms. Miller Herrera. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Mr. Guidarelli. Anyone on the question? Okay, just on the question, the new copier is going to cost us less than the old copier, so we'll save a little over $600 or about $600 a year on the new one. Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Guidarelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
yes,
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, resolution 33519 passes. Resolution 33619.
Authorize the supervisor to execute a contract with Moody's Investor Service, 7WTC at 250 Greenwich Street, New York, 10007 for bond rating services.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Mr. Christou. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Second by Mr. Signor. Anyone on the question?
What is the, Mr.
I'll give you that, yeah.
The dollar amount
Yeah,
of
I'm
this?
gonna give it. So it varies depending on the size of the bid that we're pursuing. So there's a chart here. So for public credit rating, depending on your rating, where we are, if we're borrowing between, if we're borrowing less than $1 million, for general obligation bonds, it's $10,000. For revenue lease, special tax, and state revolving fund bonds, which is $13,000. Then between $1 million and less than $5 million is $12,500 is where we would fall.
Page 11
13,000.
of the detailed chart.
Yeah, I got it.
Is the fee
Okay.
schedule.
So there's more to it than that, but if you read through, I mean, basically there'll be a charge, but obviously with our rating and it helps us to ensure that we get notice and proper rates with the local institutions. We've been very fortunate that the local banks, like I believe First National Bank of Scotia, not to mention all, but Saratoga National and I'm forgetting one now, Pioneer Bank. They've been very good with us in the past few years in particular. So this will just help us further that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So we have a motion by Mr. Christou and a second by Mr. Signor. Anyone else on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Guidarelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
yes,
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, resolution 33619 passes. Resolution 33719.
The town board of the town of Rotterdam hereby authorizes and directs the controller to appropriate unrestricted fund balance in the sewer district 2, extension 6, to cover the cost of sewer line repairs and pump station maintenance work in the High Bridge Road area in an amount not to exceed $11,000.
Okay, may I have a motion, please? Motion by Mr. Signor. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Okay, second by Mr. Christou. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christo?
Yes.
Mr. Guidarelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
yes,
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
And Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, resolution 33719 passes. Resolution 33819.
The town board of the town of Rotterdam hereby adopts the town board's 2020 preliminary budget and calls for a public hearing to be held on Wednesday, November 13, 2019. It says 18, but I'm saying 19,
Yep, sorry.
at 7 p.m. at the John F. Kirby Government Center, Town Hall, 1100 Sunrise Boulevard, Rotterdam, New York, 12306, for the following purpose: to hear comments by the public both in favor and against the town board's 2020 preliminary budget as compiled and both for and against any items contained therein. The town board's 2020 preliminary budget shall be available for the public inspection in the office of the town clerk Monday through Friday from 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. and through the town of Rotterdam's website www.rotterdamny.org around the clock beginning October 24th, 2019.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Motion by Mr. Christou. Second, please.
I'll second.
Okay, second by Ms. Miller Herrera. Anyone on the question? Does anyone want to comment at all?
Just that a lot of blood, sweat, and tears went into the workshops and the adjustments to the budget to ensure that it was fiscally sound moving forward.
And fair.
And where did you all agree to put it? I think it's fair for discussion.
I believe where we've ended up, although I haven't spoken directly with our controller, is with a 0% increase in taxes for 2020.
Okay. Okay, so we have a motion by Mr. Christou and a second by Ms. Miller Herrera. Anyone else on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Christou?
Yes.
Mr. Guidarelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, resolution 33819 passes. Resolution 33919.
Authorized budget transfers by the town controller to various accounts 2019.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Okay, motion by Mr. Christou. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Miller Herrera. Anyone on the question? Okay, Ms. Marco, please call the roll.
Mr. Christou?
Yes.
Mr. Guidarelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller Herrera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
And Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, resolution 33919 passes. So, under committee reports, before I say anything, under miscellaneous, anyone have anything that they'd like to? Would you mind re-mentioning the?
Yeah, I don't
From the
necessarily
beginning
have
of the meeting.
committee reports, but I do have some announcements. You want me to do that
Sure.
at this point?
Just for those, people who come in late, watching the meeting, if you could announce the other things today.
So,
Appreciate it.
the Rotterdam Police Department will be partnering with the Drug Enforcement Agency to host a drug take-back event at the Rotterdam Police Department at 101 Princetown Road on Saturday, October 26, 2019, between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. During this time, residents can bring in unused or expired medication for safe disposal. Please note that this event does not include the collection of illicit drugs, needles, sharps, or liquids. I know this is a good opportunity for people to clean out their medicine cabinets. It's something I do annually. It keeps our communities and our families safe, so all you gotta do is bring it in. There's a box set up and you drop it off. I usually bring it in a plastic bag, but it's a great opportunity, and I know a lot of people worry about where they can take medications for proper disposal, so next, the town of Rotterdam will be celebrating Halloween, as previously mentioned, on October 31st, 2019. Designated hours for trick-or-treating are from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. The Rotterdam Police Department is once again asking parents to cooperate by having their children off the streets by 8 o'clock p.m. There are Halloween safety tips, both for trick-or-treaters, parents, and homeowners, and I believe this is probably on our website.
Should be, yeah.
In addition, on October 25th, 2019, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., there will be a health and wellness fair at the Rotterdam Senior Citizen Center at 2639 Hamburg Street. There will be screenings, vendors, and information from various providers. Refreshments will be provided, and it's free and open to the public. I hope we'll see people there.
Okay.
Anything else?
No, anyone else?
Yeah, I will say one thing. Mr. Supervisor, I would just like to mention and remind residents, on the town website, we have a new portal where you can sign up to receive town notices and alerts that will automatically push to your email. And that's it. And you can actually submit some feedback as well to the town.
And thank you, Councilman Guidarelli, for the work you put into getting that going. Thanks, John.
I agree.
And further, the other thing that we have that's going to be a big change for us, moving forward here, particularly in the new year, is We're going to be doing away with a lot of paper that you see us shuffling around up here. We'll still have some, because that's just how it is. But we've purchased stations to have in front of us with our agendas. We hope that the other boards at some point, over the next several months, will be able to also use those that same technology, and we'll be able to eliminate a lot of paper and frankly a lot of work that's involved in updating our agendas on a bi-weekly basis or sometimes more, and especially the day of. What happens here is that there's not a scramble, but you start printing off an agenda and you realize that there's documentation that you need to stick in the flow, and so it creates quite a production from time to time. So we'll have everything electronic. That will also afford the public the ability to see everything. I don't know necessarily faster, but they'll be looking at what we're looking at immediately and in real time kind of thing. So I'm excited about that, and hopefully we'll be able to use other technology to make improvements here for presentations, and that's coming as well as new microphones and some other things in the new year. So Joe and members of the board and people in our office worked on all that over the past several months, so I appreciate all the efforts there also. I just want to say a few things. So as far as just to answer very briefly, so over time, whether you're talking about the city of Schenectady, the town of Rotterdam, or other municipalities, when they get water permits, the language about meters is in those permits. The town is going to be working with the DEC, and we have been working with the DEC, but I'll be blunt. We're going to be working with the DEC to ensure that we have updated, which we do. We have a water conservation plan, but we're going to update that plan. And my efforts, I'll say this for myself on the board, and when it comes to our water infrastructure, sewer infrastructure, particularly with the water infrastructure, I want to see us spend our money first on making improvements to the system prior to even thinking about putting in meters in people's homes, because the cost is exorbitant, and we can all afford that, particularly for those people on fixed incomes. So I'll start there. Secondly, there's been some conversation about here this evening, and it's been kind of a theme here the past few months, that somehow we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing, and that's absolutely false. So I'm going to be patient and relaxed as I say a few things. So, and I'm going to be repetitive again, which just boggles my mind, but that's how it is this time of year in a odd year every year here. I mean, the number odd, so it's 2019, there's reasons why these things sort of come up. So the town, a couple years ago, we were successful in applying for a grant/loan. We received a $5 million award from the state. So the May Avenue tank that's being reconditioned, repainted, that money comes from that effort. Work on Helderberg Avenue, a new tank, reconditioning of the existing tank, that is also in part of this grant. But the grant is flexible in that we can also use the money for a redundant line or replacement line for our distribution from the water plant on Rice Road. So, after the storms of Irene and Lee, in 2011, efforts by Mr. Collins and other people, including Mr. Yule and others in the town, residents, business people. The reason that we have Well 5 is because of those efforts and the Governor's Office of Storm Recovery, which basically paid for that entire well. There was some money that we put through in Water 5, but for the most part that was paid for there. As far as the idea that we're going to be in the floodplain, that's why the wellhead at Water 5 and the building at Water 5 is above the flood area. It's built high. Well 6, when we move there, which we are moving in that direction, will be built in the same way. In other words, it will be outside built to be above the floodplain. Mm-hmm. So, as far as cost to taxpayers, we're very cognizant of that. We do not want to see people have to have plumbers or other folks go into their homes and have them cost hundreds or thousands of dollars to redo the piping in their home in order to accommodate metering and so on. What's also kind of interesting here is that, you know, nowhere have we said that we were, that the DEC said we don't have to meter. It's in the permit. So when you're reading something from a permit, it says it. I'm not going to argue that. But at the same time, we're going to work with the DEC to make sure that, number one, we improve all of our infrastructure first. And as far as down the road, if that were to happen, it may happen. I don't want to see it happen. I'm going to be blunt. I think the technology is going to change enough, and frankly, I think that we can make an argument, a strong one, that we don't need to do that. But I guess we'll see what happens in the near future. But the concept of going in and saying that we're going to do it immediately because the permit says so is incorrect. The DEC will work with the town, as it has with the city of Schenectady that doesn't meter their homes. We'll work with the municipality in order to make sure that we're improving our infrastructure first, and then we can talk about some of the things that have relation to the future. But more importantly, the cost is tremendous for people. In Glenville, they've always metered. They replaced meters. It cost millions of dollars. They had to bond the money. They bought meters, and then they have to go and install them everywhere. And you have to, they have to be read, and they're read electronically, if you will, or through the, through the internet, if you will. And what happens there is that I don't know that they're always accurate, because I know that they've had problems. I've been reading about these meters. They've had problems in some municipalities, and the documentation, the information that they receive on those meters, they haven't all been correct. So I think that the technology is going to change. I do believe that we have to first answer the questions that have to do with our aging infrastructure before we go anywhere else. And that's the effort that we're going to make from my position here as a supervisor. The idea that we're somehow going to run out of water or something of that sort, we're not going to run out of water, but we have to make sure that we have the infrastructure to deliver the resource. And the only way you're going to have the infrastructure to deliver the resource is to keep doing what we're doing, which is we're applying for grants. We are working with our engineering firm to make sure that we're doing everything that we need to do to accommodate new development, accommodate existing homes and businesses. So that's where we are. So you can look at anyone's permit that's out there, and you're going to see that language in it. It doesn't mean that it's going to happen tomorrow or next year. So that's all I have on that right now.
Mr. Supervisor, I move to adjourn.
Okay, we have a motion for adjournment. No one else has anything else tonight? Okay. So we have a motion for adjournment by Mr. Christou. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Okay, second by Mr. Signor. Ms. Mark, would you just call the roll for adjournment?
Mr. Christou?
Yes.
Mr. Gitterelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Smiley Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Signor?
Yes.
Mr. Thomason?
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, thank you everyone for coming this evening. The meeting is closed.
Thank you. Thank you.